Hey everybody, this is Jeff Messer. We're doing a breakdown episode with William Messner-Loebs. I came all the way to Detroit just to meet you, buddy. How are you?
I am good.
Hey Max, it's getting harder and harder to buy you out of here. I heard you almost bit off Baker's finger this time.
Yes.
I'm not absolutely sure about this, but I think I'm either the first or second guest they had at Motor City.
Back in the 30 years that they've been doing it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mike Goldman approached me during a Mid-Ohio con and said he was going to be putting on a convention.
Right. Now you're from the Michigan area, the Detroit area, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All your life?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's. I was talking to Andre LeBlanc, who did a lot of the Spirit backgrounds.
Oh, okay.
And so he and Will Eisner and I and Nadine were all at the at the airport waiting, and so he said, "So Bill, you come from around here?" And we happened to be at Chicago at that point, and Chicago convention, and so I launched into this long, complicated explanation of, well, you know,
this is
Michigan, and it's here, and we're over here, and so we're on the other side of Lake Michigan, and so forth and so on, and he let me run down, and then he said, "Oh, but Bill, there is New York, and there is LA, and there is around here.
Around here, everything else.
You are from around here."
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I am.
That is so funny. Thank goodness you're from Michigan. You always see those people who do the Michigan thing with the hand, or is it this hand? Thank God you weren't from Florida, right? That's a joke I love telling that joke when people from Michigan go, you know, I'm from here, and I'm like, well, I'm just glad you weren't from Florida.
Yes,
because they want to show you, I guess. But anyway, I won't belabor that joke too much. I got to say, when I was a kid reading comics in the 1980s, even into the 1990s. I mean, hell, I'm still a kid. I still read comics today. Your name was one of those that jumped out at me. My last name is Messer, Messer, and I saw Messner, which a lot of people who weren't from around here where I grew up mispronounced my last name and would say Messner. And so when I saw your name on a comic book, I was very intrigued, and so that was my first entry into some of your works back in the 80s.
Well, it's interesting because my wife has traced. Apparently, all the Messners come from a little town in Germany.
Okay.
And
we must have been neighbors then. Our families must have been neighbors. Mine are from Germany as well.
Yeah, I think, and it's very possible. Now that my wife does genealogy, and so it's very easy to drop letters and gain letters.
Sure, yeah.
So
it's that Ellis Island sort of transit that happens, misspellings and everything else, for sure. But I was always fascinated with your work, and I didn't really know much about your background or your story other than your name. How old were you when you started getting into comics, either as a fan or as somebody who wanted to write or draw?
Well, I think it was pretty early. I think, I can remember being in the first house we had in Ferndale, and looking at the first Fantastic Four, and then when we moved down to Alabama, and
that's a big culture shock.
Well, it was, although we all moved at once because my dad was loaned out to the space program by Chrysler, and so if you've ever seen the things of the films of the first stage of the rocket falling back from the second stage, and it looks like you're sitting on the second stage, my dad designed that camera system.
Wow, nice.
He used to give me little fiber optic bundles to take the class for show and tell.
That's quite a show and tell. Before anybody knew what fiber optics were, I guess.
Yeah.
Those weren't readily available. So now, when you were very young, you lost your right arm. What was that like, wanting to be an artist and a writer? I'm sorry, am I breaking some news to you? I'm sorry.
It's gone.
It's
gone. No.
Breaking news. How did that affect your ability to do that? You had to work harder, I would imagine, than most kids.
Well, I had a cancerous tumor on my arm when I was born, and they took it off at 13 days old.
Wow. So you never knew anything else?
I never knew anything else, and there are the occasional issues, but if you want to draw a straight line, you just get the right tool and you can draw a straight line. And also for those who are facing these issues, you can also take a piece of kneaded eraser and stick it up. So it's a very, very small inconvenience.
Sure.
I say that and everybody says, "Oh, Bill, you're so noble. You're so sweet." But no, it's just true. It's
you never knew any other way, so that was just a natural thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
The ability, you wanted it so much to be an artist, to be a writer, that nothing was going to stop you.
Okay. We'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put that down as the official bio, right?
Yeah.
But what was the first time you drew something that you were able to sort of look at, your friends maybe looked at and went, "Oh my God, Bill, you're going to be an artist"? Or your family?
Well, of course, everybody drew. When I was coming up, and I come from that generation where we actually had art classes.
A long time ago in a galaxy not so far away, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
really.
yes.
And so that was one thing. But we had what I now look upon as kind of a turning point. In what we now call middle school,
Right.
which is junior high. My friends and I were all being bullied by the class, and I happened to be all alone. And I was drawing not quite a comic book, but a story about how you could become invisible. And
invisible characters are the easiest to draw, right?
Well, that's true. Yes, and all of a sudden, all the kids that had been bullying me were interested. They all came over.
Right.
And I was a very shy kid, so I never realized. My mom was always saying, "Why don't you go and show people your stuff?" And I never had any interest in doing that. But after that day, I thought, well, that seemed to be useful. That was
Right. It was a great conversation starter or an icebreaker.
Yeah.
Especially with people who maybe didn't know you or understand you. That's pretty cool. So everybody faces that lack of confidence when they're young or in that age. But once you feel that acceptance, did that sort of galvanize you moving forward?
Well, except that as you learned about comics, you learned that this was not an easy field to get into.
Right.
And when I was growing up, it was given that you had to move to New York.
Sure.
And you only had 2 companies to work for.
That's right.
And for somebody who, was not very ambitious, the idea of going to New York and trying to talk a company into letting you draw Spider-Man.
Right. You had a lot of convincing to do.
Yeah. So I was just doing this stuff and thinking generally about being a writer of some kind.
Right.
But also we were moving around a lot. We moved from Huntsville, Alabama to New Orleans. I think it's interesting that I've lived in Maine, I've lived in Florida, I've lived in Louisiana, and I've lived in Michigan, which is 4 states that are actually very identifiable by their silhouettes.
That's true. Yeah. Wow. Were you on the run from the law? People move around a lot when they're trying to avoid either the government or something.
No. We were just putting together Atlas missiles.
Oh, wow. Now, I know a lot of people are familiar with some of your comic work, that when you did break into the industry, you're quite well known for having worked on The Flash and Wonder Woman for DC Comics, both tremendously popular characters now. What do you think about the cinematic and television incarnations of those characters? Have you seen any of that?
I saw a few of the. We only have intermittently have cable,
okay,
and so, or you even intermittently have the CW. So
sure.
So it's I've seen isolated incidents, and I sort of like what they've done with Supergirl, with John Jones, the Martian Manhunter,
right,
being a supporting character. They've done some sort of interesting things with bringing in these secondary DC characters that I kind of grew up with.
Sure, yeah.
Like with Legends of Tomorrow.
That's a fun show. I enjoy that.
You know, you think, what new Golden Age character are they going to introduce in this episode?
Right.
So it's I thought they were good. I was marginally involved with the first Flash television show.
Oh, back in the 90s.
Yeah,
right.
I wrote it.
That's when you were writing the books.
Yeah, I was writing the books, and then so they brought us in, and they brought in the two producers.
Right.
The some sort of secondary money guy from Paramount.
Okay.
Jeanette Kahn, who was the editor-in-chief at that point.
Right.
And the two editors that I had and me.
Okay.
So that gave us a fair number of people to be put into a circle. and so somebody would say, well, you know what it should be? This was like 2 months after the Michael Keaton Batman came out.
Right.
And so it's like, well, it should be grim and gritty.
Just like Batman.
It should be grim and gritty just like Batman. And it was, yeah, grim and gritty. Grim and gritty is good. We're like grim and gritty. Grim and gritty is a wonderful thing. Yes, but of course not too grim and gritty. Well, of course you don't want it too grim and gritty. No, we're going to, 3 hours of
that conversation.
Of that conversation going around like this.
Wow.
Everybody was being so nice, and everybody was trying to be supportive of everybody else.
Right.
And about halfway through, I took my pencil, it may have been this pencil right here, and I drove it into my thigh to keep from laughing.
Oh, no.
Because I knew instinctively that no one else would think it was funny.
Right.
And in fact, I mentioned to Jeanette later on wasn't that amusing when we were all trying to support each other and going in circles? And she said, "Did that happen?"
She read it a different way.
She read it like it's Tuesday.
Being in charge like that, she probably has those conversations
all
every Tuesday.
Right.
Yes,
and in fact, they called her up 2 months later, and they said, "You know, Jeanette, we came up with a wonderful idea, because the Flash is a runner, right?
Right.
Well, he doesn't really need a costume then. He can be like the $6 Million Man, and he'll just have a red running suit."
That saves on the budget, I guess.
It saves on the budget, wow. and it also completely destroys our copyright.
Exactly.
And Jeanette, bless her heart, said, "You know, that's a wonderful idea. I'm going to fly up there this afternoon, and we can talk it over."
Right.
She was there for 2 weeks, and when she left, we had the costume back.
Oh, it took her 2 weeks to get her way, though. That's amazing. Well, no, I don't want to take up too much more of your time because I know you've got a busy day ahead of you and a busy weekend ahead of you.
So I hear.
So you hear. Fingers crossed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do want to mention, though, one of the main reasons I wanted to come and interview you was as a classic fan of that era of comic books. When I read a news story a little over a year ago about some of the struggles you were going through, as a fan, I took it personally, and I've seen on the internet that other fans have also really. You see this happening to a lot of artists and writers in your generation, where they seem to be getting left behind. Can you talk a little bit about the experiences you've had? You're on an upswing again. I feel like there's some good things happening. You got a great friend, Mike, here, who's helping you do things. I see and feel a lot of positive energy coming from fans out there. What is it like being where you are now compared to maybe a year and a half ago?
Well, a year and a half ago, we were in our car.
This is your car, but this is also home.
Like, more or less. And so that was a less positive experience.
Sure.
We're in a place now where I have a GoFundMe site, and I found an interesting thing about that is that they suggest you should interact with your fans who are sending you on the GoFundMe site. But after you have 5 interactions, they cut you off.
Really?
Yeah, and so you can't talk to anybody about what's happening anymore. Right. And I've never quite figured that out, but I found a way of getting back on Facebook.
Okay.
And so that's I seem to have gotten around that problem.
Sure. I see a lot of activity now on Facebook and other places on social media, so that's good.
Yeah, and as far as I know, no one understands why a lot of the older guys. By older guys, I mean significantly younger than me, have sort of been dropped off of everybody's golden Rolodex.
Right.
Because, I always thought of myself as being kind of an eccentric figure, and maybe you could understand why I sort of lucked into writing mainstream characters, but almost everybody that I grew up with is gone.
Right.
I mean, no one seems to be even approaching people like John Byrne or Neil Adams to actually do work.
It seems strange.
It's and I always wanted to grow up and be John Byrne. So
right. Well, you didn't want to follow in those footsteps where he's not doing work now.
Well, that's true. Sure. That's true. I would like to follow in slightly more successful footsteps.
Sure. It is a bit of a sad statement that the industry is currently going in a different direction and not really honoring the legacy creators who gave them so much. Most of the film and TV that we see now is based off of the era that you guys came out of and the stories that you were creating. So there needs to be a better way of honoring that, in my opinion. And I hope that we see a shift in that. I feel like some of the things that you've got going on and other creators have going on, they're going more directly to the fan base now and having that direct relationship. And I hope that that's enough to kind of create a phoenix rising from the ashes for a lot of guys.
Well, and in fact, I was approached about, I guess maybe 2 months ago now, by Amy Chu, who is a young and up-and-coming writer.
Sure.
Wrote Deja Thoris and a bunch of people like that, and she is writing a Kiss.
The rock band Kiss.
The rock band
That's
Kiss,
right.
and she's invited me onto the project, and so
Fantastic.
we're doing that together. So that's
coming up.
That is coming up. I'm not quite sure the exact relationship we have with the rock band.
Sure.
There seems to be blood involved, but
yeah, stick their fingers and dip it in the ink, right? Yes, for sure.
So anyway, but
that's good.
Yeah, so I'm happy about that, and I'm working for
Yeet. Yeet. What is a yeet? Is that a Michigan thing that I don't understand? What is a yeet?
Yeet is actually something that you say if you suddenly notice that, say, Kiss has walked into the room,
Right.
you go, yeet! And that is that's what the kids are saying.
That's
now.
what the kids are saying now. Okay. I guess I've just phased out of that.
It indicates excitement.
Excitement. Okay.
I Googled it, which is how I find out what the kids are saying now.
There you go. Staying current. I love it. So how do they find out more about you and what you got going on?
Yes. I'm actually in the process of doing a project with Garrett, and it's called Cadaver Man.
Cadaver Man. All right.
A man who was a mortuary technician by day and a superhero by night.
All right.
And we are heavily in the into the vibe of what would you say? Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. Okay. That really kind of eerie, strange.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
And
when does that?
Yeah.
When does that do?
Well, I've written the first issue, and which is a double-size issue, and but Garrett had to move to England. You may have noticed that we don't have a terrific health system here.
Yes.
And
yes.
he had to. His wife is English,
Okay.
and so they moved his
There.
youngest child to England to be able to get her treated for.
Gotcha.
But he is getting settled back down, and his work is beautiful. So there are a lot of smaller projects that I'm involved with.
I'm very excited for you. I know that other folks are excited for you too. What's the best way they can find out and keep track of what's going on and support you in these projects?
Well, there is the Friends of William Messner-Loebs, set up by my friend Mike.
Yes.
You can. That's
On the Facebook.
on Facebook.
Yes.
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 And so you can look at that. There's somebody that updates me on Wikipedia.
Okay.
I ended up with a Wikipedia page pretty early on, and
Right.
it keeps growing, and I keep looking at it, and I
So-
keep thinking I should learn how to edit this thing myself.
You might have a stalker. I don't know.
But it's always right, so I have no reason to.
Nothing to quibble with. Right?
Yeah.
For sure. Well, got to tell you, it's been such a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time before your busy day. I know you've got a lot of books to sign. People can find you on social media, and I don't know. It's just an honor. It's a pure honor. Thanks so much, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's Bill Messner-Loebs. I'm Jeff Messer, and that's The Breakdown. And issues with, it's going to be big. It's going to be really, really big. We're going to try to shoot an entire season of episodes during the weekend of Heroes Con, and we hope to see as many of you as possible there in Charlotte, North Carolina. So that's The Breakdown. We'll see you soon.